One day, without realizing it, you might wake up and become the kind of old person you once swore you'd never be. The one who complains all the time. The one who repeats the same stories, snaps at loved ones, refuses to change, and slowly pushes people away, until loneliness is the only thing left. It won't happen overnight. It will creep in silently, disguised as small habits and unnoticed frustrations. Science proves that as we age, our brains slow down, our patience wears thin, our bodies tire easily, and if we are not careful, we become rigid, bitter, and exhausting to be around. But it doesn't have to be this way. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot stop aging, we can control how we experience it. We can either resist change and become difficult, or we can embrace it and become wiser, calmer, and stronger than ever before. If you don't want to become the kind of person people avoid, start preparing now. In this video, we'll expose the 12 ways aging can turn you into someone unpleasant, and more importantly, how to prevent it before it's too late. This is Victory Stoic, the place for those who refuse to let life control them. If you are ready to take charge of your future, like, share, subscribe, and comment below. I choose to age with strength. Share your story. What is one thing you fear about getting older? Let's master this together. Number 1. Memory decline, forgetfulness, and difficulty concentrating. Aging doesn't just change your body, it restructures your brain. One of the most critical areas affected is the hippocampus, the region responsible for memory and focus. Studies show that as we age, this part of the brain shrinks, making it harder to recall information, stay focused, and retain new knowledge. This is why many older adults find themselves struggling to remember names, misplacing objects, or repeating the same stories without realizing it. At first, you might not notice it. You still feel sharp, still recall major events, and still follow conversations. But then, small lapses creep in. You forget why you walked into a room. You struggle to find the right words in a sentence. You can't recall where you put your keys, even though you just had them. People start reminding you, "You already told me that," and frustration builds. I had a friend, Tom, who saw this happening to his father, a man who once had a mind like a steel trap. His dad would tell the same stories at every family dinner, oblivious that he'd already shared them a dozen times before. He began forgetting appointments, missing birthdays, and leaving things behind. Watching this decline shook Tom to his core, so he decided to take control of his mental aging before it was too late. Instead of ignoring the problem, Tom built a routine to keep his mind sharp. Every morning, he challenged himself with crossword puzzles and Sudoku, forcing his brain to stay active. He read books and took notes, knowing that writing reinforces memory. He made it a rule to learn something new every week, whether it was a historical fact, a scientific concept, or a new recipe. Above all, he practiced mindfulness, reminding himself not to dwell on things outside his control, but to focus on what was in front of him. This is the essence of Stoic resilience. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Do not let your mind be overburdened by unnecessary things. If we do not actively train our brains, they will atrophy. But if we treat our minds like a muscle, constantly pushing, stretching, and challenging them, they remain strong." So, ask yourself, are you letting your mind weaken, or are you sharpening it every day? Will you be the person who forgets the present while clinging to the past? Or will you take action now to ensure your mental clarity for years to come? The choice is yours, but the training must start today. Number 2, irritability, becoming the angry, unbearable person. No one wants to be around you. Don't mean to be difficult. You don't wake up thinking, "Today I'm gonna snap at people and make everyone around me miserable." But somehow it just happens. Things get on your nerves faster than they used to. The way someone chews, the way they talk too loudly, the way they interrupt. Small things that never used to bother you suddenly feel unbearable. At first, you tell yourself it's just a bad day. But then bad days start stacking up. You find yourself sighing in frustration more often, rolling your eyes at conversations, cutting people off mid-sentence because you just don't have the patience. Your family and friends begin walking on eggshells around you, unsure of what will set you off next. You don't realize it, but you are becoming the very person you used to dislike. The grumpy old man at the coffee shop complaining about kids these days. The bitter woman who finds fault in everything. The one whose presence makes the air heavier. draining joy from every room. Science explains this change. As we age, dopamine and serotonin levels drop, reducing our ability to feel pleasure and patience. Frustration builds up more quickly, and emotional regulation becomes harder. Your tolerance for noise, mistakes, and unpredictability shrinks, not because the world has gotten worse, but because your brain chemistry has shifted. But here's the harsh truth. The world does not adjust to your moods. Your impatience does not make others more efficient. Your snapping does not make people respect you more. Your irritation does not solve problems. It only pushes people away. Epictetus, a great Stoic philosopher, put it bluntly. It is not events that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. The person who frustrates you is not the problem. Your reaction is. The traffic jam, the slow cashier, the loud neighbor, these are just things that exist. You are the one choosing to let them control you. So what can you do? First, recognize the pattern. Every time you feel irritation rising, stop and ask, is this worth ruining my peace over? Second, practice the pause. Before responding in anger, take a breath, count to 5, and ask yourself if this reaction serves you. Third, train your patience. Meditate, practice deep breathing, or simply force yourself to sit in discomfort without reacting. Aging is inevitable, but becoming miserable is a choice. You can either let small annoyances turn you into someone people avoid, or you can train yourself to master your emotions, stay calm, and remain someone others respect and enjoy being around. Ask yourself, are you becoming a storm that people want to escape, or a calm presence that others seek out? The answer determines the kind of person you will be in your later years. Choose wisely. Number 3, the crushing weight of loneliness, feeling forgotten and left behind. Aging comes with an invisible curse, the slow, creeping sense of isolation. You don't wake up one day and suddenly feel abandoned. It happens gradually. At first, life is busy, fanned all of responsibilities and people. Then, one by one, things change. Your children grow up, move out, build their own families. Friends you once saw every week now only check in occasionally. Some relocate, some pass away. The daily calls become monthly calls, the invitations stop coming. And one day, you realize, your world has become much, much smaller. At first, you try to stay optimistic. They're just busy, life gets in the way, but the silence starts to settle in. The house feels emptier. The phone doesn't ring as often. People still love you, but they are not around as much. The more you sit alone, the more your mind begins whispering dangerous thoughts. Have they forgotten me? Do I still matter? This isn't just in your head. Science confirms it. As we age, our oxytocin levels drop, the hormone responsible for social bonding. This decline makes us feel emotionally disconnected, even when surrounded by people. Combine that with a shrinking social circle, and the result is a deep sense of loneliness that can feel unbearable. But here's the harsh truth. Loneliness is not just something that happens to you. It is something you allow to grow. Many older adults unknowingly contribute to their isolation. They expect others to reach out first. They wait for phone calls instead of making them. They resent their children for being busy, but forget that they too were once busy raising families, working, and navigating life. I once knew an older man named Robert. After retirement, he fell into the classic trap. He expected people to keep him company, but he never took action to maintain his relationships. He refused to try new activities, saw invitations as obligations rather than opportunities. And slowly, people stopped asking. His bitterness grew, and soon he was alone, not because no one cared, but because he chose not to engage. Contrast this with Mary, a 75-year-old woman who refused to let aging make her invisible. She joined a community book club, started volunteering at a local shelter, and even learned how to use social media to stay in touch with her grandchildren. She didn't wait for connection, she built it. She understood what Seneca once said, "A wise person is sufficient unto themselves." So ask yourself, are you actively nurturing relationships, or are you passively waiting for people to remember you? The difference between an old age filled with connection and one filled with solitude is simple: initiative. If you don't want to be forgotten, don't disappear. Reach out. Join something. Say yes to invitations. Because the truth is, no one is coming to pull you out of isolation. You must pull yourself out. Number 4, aging changes your appearance. Will you accept it or let it consume you? One day, you glance in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back at you. The skin that was once firm and smooth now sags slightly. Wrinkles etch lines across your forehead, telling stories of laughter and stress. Your hair, once thick and full, has thinned, maybe even turned gray. A stranger seems to be looking at you, wearing the remnants of your younger self. Aging transforms you, whether you like it or not. And yet, how you react to this transformation determines whether you live with dignity or spend your remaining years trapped in insecurity. Science explains this shift clearly. As we grow older, our bodies lose collagen, the protein responsible for keeping skin elastic and youthful. Hair follicles shrink, causing thinning and graying. Metabolism slows, making it easier to gain weight and harder to lose it. These are biological facts, not punishments. And yet, many people see aging as a personal failure rather than a natural part of life. At first, it seems small. You avoid cameras, rejecting photos because you don't like how you look. You make jokes about being past your prime, but deep down, it stings. You compare yourself to your younger self and always feel like you're losing. Slowly, your self-worth becomes entangled with an image that no longer exists. I knew a woman named Linda who fought every wrinkle like it was a personal enemy. She avoided mirrors, refused to go to social events, and even withdrew from family gatherings because she didn't want people to see her like this. She spent more time hiding from aging than actually living. She let vanity steal the joy from her later years. Then there was Jack. He was in his 70s and had long accepted that he no longer looked like the strong, handsome man he once was. But instead of retreating, he leaned into it. He exercised not to look young, but to feel strong. He dressed well, not to impress others, but because he still respected himself. He focused on what he could control: his mind, his health, and his attitude. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, wrote, "Your body is merely a vessel. The mind is what truly matters." The world convinces you that youth equals beauty and beauty equals value. But this is an illusion. If your confidence depends on the mirror, it will shatter with time. But if it comes from within, it will only grow stronger. So what can you do? First, stop resisting the inevitable. Accept that aging is part of life, just like you once accepted growth, learning, and change. Second, take care of yourself, not to fight to age, but to age with strength. Eat well, exercise, and stay active. Third, redefine beauty. Real attractiveness doesn't come from wrinkle-free skin, but from the confidence and wisdom that only time can give you. Ask yourself, are you spending more time mourning the past than embracing the present? Because if you let go of the desperate need to look young, you might finally start feeling truly alive. Number 5. Gaining weight, slowing down. Is aging an excuse or a challenge? You notice it gradually. Your favorite jeans feel a little tighter. Stares that once seemed effortless now leave you slightly out of breath. You move a little slower and get tired a little faster. You tell yourself it's just part of aging and let it slide. Then the excuses start stacking up. I'm too old to worry about my weight. Why bother exercising? I've earned the right to relax. At this age, I should enjoy eating whatever I want. Before you know it, you've allowed your body to become something that works against you rather than for you. The science behind why this happens. As you age, your metabolism slows down. Your body burns fewer calories at rest. Muscle mass naturally declines, and because muscle is more metabolically active than fat, this loss further decreases your ability to burn energy efficiently. Fat accumulates more easily, particularly around the abdomen, and mobility decreases. What used to be a simple task, standing up, bending down, walking for long periods, becomes a struggle, and this is where the real danger begins. When movement becomes difficult, you start avoiding it. You sit more, you move less, and the less you move, the weaker you become. It's a vicious cycle, and the worst part, you don't even realize it's happening until it's too late. The harsh reality. Would you say this to a friend? Imagine you have a close friend who's gained weight, lost energy, and moved sluggishly. Would you tell them, just give up? Don't bother trying, accept that you're slow and weak now? Of course not. You'd encourage them. You'd tell them, take care of yourself, move, eat better, stay strong, because the more you neglect your body now, the harder life will become later. Now ask yourself, why don't you say this to yourself? Stoic insight. Your body serves your mind. The Stoics understood that the body is not just a shell, it is the vessel that carries your mind and spirit. A weak, neglected body leads to a weak, neglected mind. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic leaders, followed a strict physical regimen because he knew that discipline in the body leads to discipline in the mind. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, and those thoughts are clearer, sharper, and stronger when the body is treated with care. How to break the cycle, the Stoic way. First, change the way you see aging. It is not an excuse to let yourself go. It is a test of how well you've maintained discipline over the years. Second, move daily. Walk, stretch, and do bodyweight exercises. If you stop moving, your body will forget how to move. Third, choose your food wisely. Not to look young, but to keep your body functioning at its highest potential. Aging doesn't mean slowing down. It means learning how to maintain strength despite the years. If you let yourself become weak, life will only get harder. But if you fight for your strength now, your later years will be filled with power, not limitations. So ask yourself, are you allowing age to slow you down, or are you proving that discipline and strength never fade? Number 6, becoming more sensitive to temperature, a weakness or a superpower. One winter morning, you step outside and immediately feel an icy chill sink into your bones. It's not just cold, it's unbearable. The same temperature that younger people seem to handle just fine feels like an attack on your body. In summer, the opposite happens. What used to be a pleasantly warm day now feels suffocating, like your body is overheating from the inside out. This isn't your imagination, it's science. As we age, our circulatory system slows down, making it harder for our bodies to regulate temperature. The blood vessels constrict more, reducing blood flow to the extremities, which is why your hands and feet feel colder than they used to. Your skin also becomes thinner due to collagen loss, meaning you lose heat more easily in winter and absorb heat faster in summer. At first, it seems like a minor inconvenience until it starts affecting daily life. You find yourself arguing over the thermostat with younger family members who don't understand why you're freezing in a room that feels comfortable to them. You avoid outdoor activities in extreme weather. You become hesitant to travel, fearing you won't be able to adjust to different climates. But what if this sensitivity is a gift? Before you see this as a limitation, consider this. What if heightened sensitivity isn't a weakness, but an advantage? Think about how professional chefs train their palates to detect subtle flavors that others miss. Your body is now a finely tuned instrument, more aware of the world around it. This new awareness is not just about temperature. You notice the air more, the crispness of a cool morning, the heaviness of humidity before a storm. You feel textures more vividly, the warmth of a sunlit chair, the refreshing cold of a glass of water on a hot day. While others take these things for granted, you experience them fully. Stoic insight: adapt, don't complain. The Stoics understood that resisting what is inevitable only creates suffering. Instead of seeing your heightened temperature sensitivity as a problem, treat it as an opportunity to master adaptation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." You cannot change your body's reaction to heat and cold, but you can control how you respond. How to master your environment like a Stoic. Instead of complaining about the cold, prepare for it. Dress in layers so you can adjust throughout the day. Wear thermal socks and gloves to protect your extremities. If summer heat overwhelms you, use a fan, stay hydrated, and wear light, breathable fabrics. Adaptability is key. Are you resisting or mastering change? Aging doesn't mean losing control. It means learning to work with your body, not against it. You may not tolerate temperature changes like before, but in exchange, you have gained a heightened awareness of the world. Instead of frustration, embrace it as a unique experience that connects you more deeply to your surroundings. So the next time you feel the bite of winter air or the intensity of the summer sun, ask yourself, are you suffering because you refuse to adapt? Or are you thriving because you've learned to master change? Number 7, losing independence. The silent struggle of those who once stood strong. For someone who has always prided themselves on self-reliance, nothing feels more humiliating than needing help for things you once did effortlessly. It starts small. Maybe opening a stubborn jar becomes a frustrating battle, Or climbing stairs leaves you more winded than expected. You tell yourself it's nothing, but then one day, you have to ask someone to tie your shoes because your hands won't cooperate. Or you realize you can't read the fine print on a label without someone else stepping in. And suddenly, it hits you. You are no longer fully in control of your own life. This realization is not just difficult, it is devastating. For those with high self-respect, it is almost unbearable. You don't want pity. You don't want to be a burden. So what do? You pretend. You struggle in silence rather than admit you need assistance. You push people away rather than let them see your weakness. You force yourself through pain and frustration just to prove you can still do it alone. But here's the truth. Hiding your struggles does not make you stronger. It makes life harder for you and those who care about you. Why this happens: the science of declining strength. As we age, muscle mass naturally decreases, a process called sarcopenia. Grip strength weakens, and joints lose flexibility. Tasks that require coordination, balance, and endurance become more difficult, not because of a lack of willpower, but because your body is changing. No amount of pride can reverse biology. The hidden cost of pretending. When you refuse help out of pride, you unintentionally create distance between yourself and your loved ones. Your children don't see you as strong, they see you as stubborn. They feel helpless and unsure how to assist without making you feel small. Instead of bringing you closer, your silence makes you seem difficult, even though all you wanted was to maintain dignity. I knew a man named James, a retired military officer, who was the definition of strength his entire life. As he aged, he found himself struggling with simple tasks, buttoning his shirt, carrying groceries, even walking long distances. But instead of admitting it, he forced himself through everything, growing increasingly frustrated when his body betrayed him. His family wanted to help, but he refused, snapping at them and shutting down conversations. In the end, he wasn't protecting his dignity. He was isolating himself. Then there was Mary, who faced the same physical challenges but approached them differently. Instead of resisting change, she adapted. She learned to use smart home technology, voice-activated assistants, and mobility tools to maintain independence. She allowed her family to help, but on her terms, in ways that still gave her control. She didn't see assistance as a weakness. She saw it as teamwork. Stoic insight. True strength is in acceptance, not resistance. The Stoics understood that resisting inevitable change only leads to suffering. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Much of the pain of losing independence is not in the loss itself, but in our refusal to accept it. Instead of seeing help as a sign of weakness, see it as an opportunity to grow in a new way. Instead of hiding struggles, embrace adaptation. If you can no longer drive safely, learn to use ride-sharing services. If stairs are a challenge, adjust your home to make life easier. Use technology, find new ways to maintain autonomy, and most importantly, communicate with those who care about you. Are you protecting your dignity or pushing people away? Losing independence is painful, but suffering in silence only makes it worse. Ask yourself, are you refusing help because you truly don't need it, or because your pride won't let you accept it? The strongest people are not those who fight alone, but those who adapt, embrace change, and allow others to stand beside them. If you want to be remembered as strong, wise, and respected, then open your heart, not just your hands. Let people in, not out of pity, but out of love. Because in the end, true dignity is not in pretending you can do it all, but in knowing when to share the weight. Number 8. Sleepless nights. Constant fatigue. Is aging draining your life away? You lie in bed exhausted but unable to sleep. The clock moves slowly. Midnight, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., your mind restless, your body refusing to settle. When morning comes, you feel like you haven't slept at all. The day hasn't even started, and yet you're already tired. At first, you think it's just an off night. But then, it happens again and again. Soon, fatigue becomes your daily companion. Your energy disappears. Conversations feel like work. Hobbies that once excited you now feel exhausting. You find yourself snapping at people and withdrawing from activities because everything just takes too much effort. The science behind your sleeplessness and fatigue. Aging disrupts sleep in ways you never expected. As you grow older, your body produces less melatonin, the hormone that regulates sleep. The deep, restorative sleep you once took for granted becomes rare, replaced by light, fragmented rest. You wake up multiple times a night. Your sleep cycles shorten. Your body struggles to recover, leaving you in a state of perpetual exhaustion. But that's not all. As sleep quality declines, your ability to regulate stress, emotions, and even memory weakens. This is why older adults often feel more irritable, forgetful, or overwhelmed, even when they aren't aware of the underlying cause. Lack of sleep isn't just making you tired, it's making you someone you don't recognize. The hidden cost of ignoring this problem. You might tell yourself, it's just part of aging, I'll manage. But fatigue changes you. You stop engaging with the world because it feels like too much effort. You avoid conversations because your mind isn't as sharp. You decline invitations, cancel plans, and without realizing it, you slowly start fading from your own life. Your family notices the difference. They don't see just tired. They see distant, withdrawn, and impatient. Your grandchildren wonder why you don't play with them as much. Your friends stop inviting you because you always seem too exhausted. It's not just your body that suffers. It's your relationships, your joy, your presence in the world. Stoic insight. Discipline your body, discipline your mind. The Stoics believe that mastery over the body leads to mastery over the mind. If you allow sleeplessness and fatigue to dictate your days, you lose control of the most precious resource you have, your energy, your presence, your ability to live fully. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire while constantly battling exhaustion, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Your sleep patterns may change, but how you respond to them is within your control. How to take back your energy, the Stoic approach. Train your body to sleep well. Set a strict bedtime, avoid screens before sleep, and keep your room cool and dark. Your body thrives on routine, give it one. Use your days wisely, engage in physical activity, spend time outside in natural light, and limit naps to ensure your body needs sleep at night. Control your evenings. Avoid caffeine, alcohol, and heavy meals before bed. Develop a relaxing ritual, reading, deep breathing, or meditation to signal your body that it's time to rest. Shift your mindset. Instead of focusing on how much sleep you didn't get, focus on making the most of your waking hours. Energy is not just about how much you sleep, it's about how you use the time you are awake. Are you letting fatigue steal your life? Aging does not have to mean exhaustion. It does not have to mean withdrawing from life because you just don't have the energy anymore. You have more power than you think. By taking control of your sleep habits and energy management, you reclaim your ability to be fully present, fully engaged, and fully alive. So ask yourself, are you letting sleeplessness dictate your life, or are you ready to master your body, your mind, and your energy? The answer determines whether you fade away or continue to thrive. Number 9. Resisting change. Are you trapped in the past while the world moves on? There was a time when everything made sense to you, the way people behaved, the way technology worked, the way society functioned. Now it feels like everything is moving too fast. Music doesn't sound like music anymore. People don't communicate the way they used to. Values have shifted, traditions have faded, and suddenly, you feel like a stranger in the world you once understood. At first, it starts with small complaints. Kids these days don't have any respect. People don't work as hard as we used to. Technology is making people lazy. But before you know it, you've stopped learning, stopped adapting, and started living in a world that no longer exists. Why this happens? The brain's resistance to change. Science explains why aging makes adaptation harder. As we grow older, our brains prioritize familiarity over novelty. The neural pathways that process new information slow down, making it harder to learn, adjust, and embrace change. This is why many older adults instinctively reject new technology, new ways of thinking, and new social norms. It's not that the world is getting worse. It's that your brain is resisting the discomfort of change. And the more you resist, the more disconnected you become. The hidden cost of living in the past. When you reject the present and glorify the past, you don't just sound outdated, you become irrelevant. Your children stop discussing new ideas with you because they know you'll dismiss them. Your grandchildren don't teach you about their world because they assume you wouldn't understand. I once knew a man named Henry who refused to adapt to anything new. He never learned how to use a smartphone, never tried online banking, and never engaged with the changing world. Eventually, life moved on without him. He struggled with simple tasks because everything became digital. He grew frustrated with his children for always being on their phones, but never tried to understand why. Instead of evolving, he became stuck. Contrast that with Linda, a 72-year-old woman who embraced change. She learned how to use social media to stay connected with her grandchildren. She tried new music, new books, and even new technology. She never let herself become outdated, and because of that, she was always part of the conversation, never left behind. Stoic insight: adaptation is strength, not weakness. The Stoics understood that resisting the inevitable only causes suffering. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You must accept the present or be destroyed by it." The world will change, people will think differently, society will evolve. You can either fight it and grow bitter, or embrace it and grow wiser. How to stay relevant and respected: challenge yourself to learn. Try a new piece of technology, read about modern issues, and engage in conversations without dismissing new ideas. Listen more than you judge. Instead of saying, "That's stupid," ask, "Why do people think this way?" Understanding does not mean agreeing, but it does mean staying informed. Connect with younger generations. Instead of complaining about how they do things differently, ask them to teach you. Respect goes both ways. If you show interest in their world, they will respect the wisdom of yours. Are you moving forward or holding yourself back? The past is comfortable, but it is not a place to live. If you refuse to adapt, the world will move on without you. But if you choose to evolve, you will remain sharp, relevant, and engaged, no matter how old you are. So ask yourself, are you clinging to what was, or are you preparing for what is? The choice is yours. Time doesn't wait. Why should you? Number 10. Struggling to focus. When your mind slips away too easily. You sit down to read a book, something you once enjoyed for hours. But now, after just a few pages, your mind drifts. You reread the same paragraph multiple times, yet nothing sticks. You try watching a movie, but halfway through, you realize you've missed entire scenes because your thoughts wandered elsewhere. Concentration, once effortless, has become a frustrating battle. At first, you dismiss it as a distraction, but then it happens more often, not just with books and movies, but in conversations and in daily tasks. You lose track of what you are doing, forget why you walked into a room, and find it harder to stay engaged. Why this happens? The science of aging and attention. As we age, the processing speed of our brains slows down. The neurons that once fired rapidly now take longer to transmit information. This makes it harder to filter out distractions and focus on one thing for an extended period. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making and attention, becomes less efficient. This is why tasks that once felt automatic now require more effort. Your brain struggles to prioritize information, leading to moments where you feel mentally scattered, easily overwhelmed, and constantly pulled in different directions. The frustration of losing focus. Losing concentration isn't just annoying, it makes you feel disconnected from your own life. You sit through conversations but only catch half of what was said. You attempt to enjoy a hobby but find yourself constantly distracted. And the worst part? It makes you doubt yourself. You start wondering, is this just aging, or is something wrong with me? You may even fear the early signs of cognitive decline. But the truth is, lack of focus does not mean you are losing your mind. It just means your mind needs training. The hidden cost of accepting this decline. Many people, when faced with this challenge, simply give up. They stop reading because it's too hard to concentrate. They avoid learning new things because it feels overwhelming. They let their minds slow down instead of fighting to keep them sharp. But this is dangerous. The less you challenge your brain, the faster it deteriorates. Just like a muscle that weakens without exercise, your focus will continue to fade unless you actively strengthen it. Stoic insight. Train your mind like a warrior. The Stoics believed that self-mastery begins with mastering the mind. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that life is short, but that we waste much of it." If you cannot control where your attention goes, you waste your most valuable resource, your time. Instead of surrendering to distraction, treat focus as a skill to be trained. How to rebuild your focus. The Stoic method. Exercise your brain daily. Play Sudoku, chess, or crossword puzzles to challenge your mind. Your brain thrives on effort. Make it work. Learn something new. Pick up a musical instrument, study a new language, or take up a complex hobby. New learning builds new neural pathways, keeping your mind agile. Read in short bursts. If long reading sessions feel overwhelming, start with 10 minutes a day and gradually increase. Consistency is more important than duration. Take care of your brain. Sleep well, eat brain-boosting foods, and stay hydrated. A well-nourished brain is a focused brain. Are you letting your mind slip away? Losing focus does not mean losing intelligence. It means your brain needs training, just like a warrior needs practice. The question is, will you let your mind weaken, or will you fight to keep it strong? Because the choice is yours. Distraction or discipline, regression or resilience. Which one will you choose? Conclusion: aging is inevitable, but who you become is your choice. You cannot stop time. Wrinkles will form, strength will fade, your mind will slow. These are facts, written into the biology of every human being. But what you can control is how you respond to these changes. Will you resist aging, clinging to the past, growing bitter and isolated, or will you adapt, evolve, and continue to live with wisdom, purpose, and strength? The difference between a miserable old age and a dignified one is not luck, it's awareness and action. If you recognize these changes now, you can adjust your mindset, habits, and lifestyle before they define you. If you accept what is coming and prepare for it, you will age with resilience, grace, and the respect of those around you. Aging does not have to mean becoming irrelevant. You can still be strong, you can still be sharp, you can still be a source of wisdom, presence, and power. This is Victory Stoic, the place for those who refuse to fade away. If you are committed to mastering your mind, body, and spirit as you age, like, share, subscribe, and comment below. I choose to age with strength. What is the biggest challenge you have faced while growing older? Let's build wisdom together.